of course, anytime you like.
Driving that train, high cocaine. Casey Jones, you better.
There was a study. It was a scientific study, and I read it. And it took a long time. The study said unstable women were better in bed. A team of scientists conducted the study that I have been working on my whole adult life. I find those results, it's disheartening. Because there is an expression, right? It's lady in the streets, freak in the sheets. Now, I've never experienced that. I have experienced freak in the sheets causing a huge scene in the streets.
Hey, there's Phil Hanley. He's here. How are you, pal? I play a little Grateful Dead for you because I know you're a big fan of the Grateful Dead. Casey Jones, I mean, it's low-hanging fruit. I know.
Still a great
You probably
tune.
go super, super deep with the Dead.
I go deep, yeah, but that's still a great tune.
Welcome. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm a fan. I've been enjoying your stuff for a while now.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Phil Hanley strikes me as a guy that more people should be paying attention to. I'm sure you feel the same way.
It's crossed my mind, but no, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to my stuff.
Yeah, of course. The new hour, the latest from Phil, is called Ooh La La. You can go to philhanley.com to watch it in its entirety. It's very funny. You are Canadian.
Yes.
You knew this already.
I did.
I'm telling the audience.
Oh.
You're from Vancouver?
I'm actually born in Ontario, and I started comedy in Vancouver.
Yeah. Now, how did you end up at the exact opposite end of the country?
Well, I started comedy. I watched it. There was a documentary comedian with Seinfeld, and he was like running around all the New York clubs. Right. I saw that like as I was starting, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I want to go. I want to, play the Comedy Cellar. I want to, live in New York and do that.
Yeah.
So, it took a long time, but yeah,
Get berated by Colin Quinn.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's like my one Comedy Cellar moment where I sat at the table and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to sit at the table, so it was like Colin Quinn and Robert Kelly and Jim Norton like flicking the sign in front of me. And then,
yeah.
And then Colin like pulling me aside and being like, "This is why you're stupid.
Don't sit here." Yeah. So how long was it? I mean, because that was, I forget how old Comedian is. I've seen that friggin' thing like, it's 20 years old now.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
So whenever...
It's going to be over 20-year-old.
Yeah, whenever it came out on like DVD and stuff like that, yeah. So I've been doing comedy, probably 18 years or something like that.
Right. But when somebody told me that you had been a skater back in the day. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I skated when I was a kid,
Yeah. So was it kind of a, you talk to people who were from Canada. Ian Bagg was in here a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And you talk to people who are from that, and there's either a sense of like, I wanted to do it, but I knew I had to leave Canada to do it. Because it's not like there's, Toronto's the closest thing, I guess, that Canada might have to show business.
Yes.
But how long was it before you were like, well, I might have some acumen for this. This might be, it's gone past a hobby, and I think I just want to.
I kind of felt confident. I'm dyslexic, so when I was a kid, I was in special ed. I never could read. I wasn't like a great athlete or anything like that. I did skateboard, and I was okay, but it was more for like the social, element of it.
Yeah, sure.
So when I started comedy, and it was one of those things where it was the first time the more I put into it, the more I got out of it. Like I would do a bunch of shows and write in the day, and I would see little improvements like kind of right away. So I was like, oh my goodness, plus I love doing it. So
yeah,
I was like, I got to run with this.
Were you strategic about it? Because some people were like, well, I just kind of wait for things to come to me. And other people are like, you have to write every day. That's the only way to do it. You know?
Well, I had moved home. I lived in England, and then I'd moved home, and I had like a life, and and then I moved home. I was living with my parents in Vancouver, and I was like...
And you're how old at that point?
I'd be like early 20s, I guess. Yeah. And I was very motivated to like, not because I wasn't having a bad time with my folks, but I was just like, okay, this is a real chance to really hit the ground running type thing.
And they were supportive?
So supportive, yeah. My dad loves comedy, and my family was always like encouraged to be like funny at the dinner table and stuff.
There's
like
kind of that cliche, and you know it well, about that what fuels some creative people is people telling them that they can't do it.
Absolutely.
But it always seemed to me that it would be equally useful if you had a family who thought, why not you?
Yeah.
You'd be great at that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, my dad, like, even when I go home now, if we're at dinner and I reference a comedian at dinner, I'll hear him later that night, like checking the guy out on YouTube or checking the woman out on YouTube. So yeah, he's really into comedy. Yeah.
It is helpful if you have people that are like, I got into radio from stand-up 30 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And I remember my dad was constantly, I just worked in and around Chicago. That was where I'm from. And my dad was constantly being like, hey, here's something you should try. Is your dad one of those guys? Hey, try this. Hey, how come a peanut butter sandwich always lands, like that kind of stuff, you know?
My dad
jokes.
He'll do that. He'll say it seriously, but he's joking. It'll be like a street joke, but he'll be like, this is what you do.
Right.
So he just kind of does it ironically.
So he's got like tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, tongue-in-cheek, which is very funny, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you do talk about being dyslexic a lot, and it's interesting to me because I think of when I did a morning show in Chicago for a number of years, and one of my co-writers on that show was a guy who a little bit older than me, but he had written for Sesame Street, he'd written for SNL, and he would do monologues on the show every so often, and he was dyslexic.
Oh, okay.
And the interesting thing to me is what reads to people who might not know that as just chill or kind of laid back, it's intense concentration.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you talk about being dyslexic, that's kind of kind of watching you work, because you're very laid back and, you know, there's nothing like aggressive about your stuff. And but is it a lot of concentration? Obviously, you're not up there writing.
Yeah.
You know, people think that dyslexia kind of stops and starts with the writing or the reading, but I assume there's way more to it than that.
No, it's everything. I sold a book. I'm writing a book about being dyslexic and my life as dyslexic.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'll read parts of that. Yeah. Also dyslexic over here. So
hold it in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's everything. It's positive things, but the negative things are, like reading is a challenge, organization. There's like a lot of aspects. It kind of affects kind of every area of your life.
It's also not uncommon. So I would imagine that it endears you, for lack of a better word, endears you to audiences to some degree, maybe, you know, because it's not.
Yeah, like I always talk, other specials that I've put out and stuff like that, I always have a chunk about dyslexia. And it always blows my mind that I'll do a late show on a Friday where the crowd's like, you know, went out for drinks at dinner, and now it's like 11:30 and I'm going on, and the dyslexic material's like killing. I'm just like, it's so far from what you would think like someone would want to hear about, but
point.
so many people are dyslexic. So many people are touched by other people that are dyslexic. And
and you're making it funny too. It's not like it's a fatal disease or something.
No,
you know? Like, I'm a cancer
true.
survivor,
Yeah.
but by the same token, it might be less work to make it funny, but there's so many people who, again, you're not alone in that thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, people take an interest, and it's always been something that I write about, because I'm always kind of dealing with it every day. You know?
Yeah. A part of what I like, Phil Hanley is doing the weekend at Hilarities right around the corner from us. You can go to their website to see you can go to his too. You can go to philhanley.com to see all the dates and everything. And his new hour is called Ooh La La. And I think part of what's great cause I'm just a big fan of jokes. I just like jokes.
Yeah.
And they're not easy to write. And so when people are kind of doing jokes, I enjoy that a great deal, you know. But your crowd work's really good too. And it's funny when I think about like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, crowd work was not considered like a skill. But if you're like a ninja with it, it's a whole different animal now.
Yeah, I mean,
and so is editing.
Yeah, like,
but like audiences now, it's almost gotten to the point where like audiences will almost goad you into it because they think they're expecting it almost.
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid. I had a weekend recently in San Francisco where a guy was dressed in like this like really flashy Western shirt.
Yeah.
And he was sitting in the front. And soon as I walked out, I had eye contact with him, and I was like, oh my God, he's just there.
He
because
wants me to mention him.
And I'm on stage, and I'm ignoring him. And in my head, I'm like, this is it. Like, if people just start coming and wanting me to do that, then it's no longer like the one person that thinks they have a great thing to say when you're asking them a question that's the last person you want to talk to. You want someone who just have an honest answer, and then you can, connect with them, and the funny will come from that. But if a person tries to be like,
They're
I'm a
trying to one-up you,
proctologist.
yeah.
You're like,
Right.
oh, great.
And if the shirt is your whole bit,
Yeah.
like where am I going to go from the shirt?
Yeah.
Hey, nice shirt.
So I avoided him the whole show, and then at the very end, I like kind of acknowledged him, and he like my instincts was correct. He jumped to his feet, put his hands over his
Yes.
head, and stared like doing this like 360 to the crowd.
Everybody wants to be part of the show now.
Yeah. So, but I've only really had that. Once where it was like someone really trying to. Of course, once in a while, someone will heckle or whatever. But people are generally cool and just answer your question, and then I try to, I want every show to be different, so I'll take what you're talking about and I'll try to go into a bit and then out of the bit and into something else with, someone else in the crowd.
Does it jam you up at all? I mean, if you're up there and obviously you've got 45, whatever it is, you've got an hour that you want to do, does that throw you off? Is that an element of dyslexia or no? Is it you mentioned memorization?
Yeah.
And you know your stuff obviously really well but will that ever throw you off?
I think memorization can be challenging for people that are dyslexic, but no, I mean that's kind of my goal, and like, part of it is I've loved the Grateful Dead since I was a kid.
Right.
None of their shows are the same, and I think just through listening to them and thinking about it, I just love that idea that it's like, okay, so this is our 45 minutes, and then tomorrow night it's going to be a completely. The jokes, there's going to be similar jokes, but I try to be inclusive with the crowd.
Like a framework that you can kind of go back and
Absolutely.
forth to.
And I'll close with the same thing, but I want to kind of, just have it be a different experience for everybody.
Do Grateful, now you'll have to speak for yourself and not all of them, obviously, but I mean, do Grateful Dead fans, does that love extend to other bands of their ilk? Like Fish and Widespread Panic and those kinds of bands?
A lot of people do. I'm not like, for me, it's kind of the Dead, and then I'll listen to the Jerry Garcia band, but that's like as far as I kind of branch out, or I'll listen
Dead
to
and Company. Do they?
Yeah,
fit?
I go to Dead and Company shows. Yeah, but some people are just kind of jam bands fan, but for me, it's primarily the Dead. Yeah.
Were there Vancouver jazz bands? Jam bands?
I don't know. I'm sure there are, because the West Coast, there is kind of a hippie vibe about that.
Yeah. I'm a metal fan, and there's great metal bands in Vancouver.
Oh, really?
I imagine that there's bands of every kind, but I'm not obviously tuned into that vibe. In Chicago, we had a band called Umphreys McGee.
Yes, I know
were
of those
They
guys.
were technically from South Bend, I think.
Really?
They were like a Purdue college band or something.
Okay.
But Chicago was the big place they come in, and so they were kind of adopted as a hometown. But they were along those lines.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of Dead fans.
I know of those, just friends and stuff like that. We'll have like kind of like a wider umbrella of what they listen to with jam bands. But I have heard of those guys for sure.
Do you do big stretches on the road or no? I feel like I don't. You've never been on this show before, but I don't recall the last time you were in Cleveland.
No, the last time I was in Cleveland, I was opening for Aziz, so it was a long time ago. It was maybe 3 years ago or something. But no, so my first time at Hilarity, so I've heard such great things, and I'm so excited, I like Cleveland as a city. I used to come and watch Brown. When I lived in Ontario as a kid, we'd drive up to see Browns games.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the city, and I'm excited.
Is it a lot of the road stuff? Is it a lot of you going out with other people? Like doing theaters and things, or no?
Yeah, no, I did a couple years where I would open for Aziz, like kind of on and off. But no, it's generally just me in clubs.
Did you go out with Bert? I thought you went out with him.
No, I've done Bert's podcast and stuff, but I have never toured with him.
You see the trailer? He's got a movie coming out.
Yeah, I did see that. Looks good.
Good for him.
Yeah. So if you do stuff on the road and it hits, and you go home, you're living in New York.
Yes.
And you go home and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you chuck it or do you keep it? Do you go, or is it kind of column A, column B?
That it's a conundrum, and that's something that happens. You'll be on the road and you'll be like, I got a new 5 minutes, just working it out over the weekend, and you'll come home and you'll try that new 5 minutes at the cellar, and you'll be like, I have a new 45 seconds.
Right.
It doesn't, but I would keep it. I would try it the next weekend and just see. But that often happens. It's just the pace is so different. The Comedy Cellar is really fast. Like you're like bang, bang, bang. And then,
the audience
and they're
is
shorter sets too.
Yeah.
Like
shorter sets, yeah.
And the audience is there for the bang, bang, bang.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like there's, in my mind, and it's because of Dave Attell, he's so fast, and I feel like there's kind of like a style of comedy that really plays well in that really tight room.
Yeah.
And it's really fast punchlines and really kind of getting to the funny stuff quickly. But on the road,
it's not as much a pontificating room. Like you're not doing
No.
long
It's not San Francisco.
diatribes. Yeah.
You're not, because you just followed someone that was super quick. So, but then it's just a total different vibe when you're if you're doing people are there to see you and it's like an hour set. You tend to kind of move a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But it's good to walk between both worlds because I think there's sometimes when comics are just playing to their crowd and they're getting away with jokes that aren't as funny. People are laughing because they're watching them.
Yeah.
And then they try and do that in a non-friendly setting. And people are like, what are you even talking about right now?
Yeah, no, both things. Like my act, like the riffing of the crowd and stuff like that comes 100% from doing terrible shows when I started. I started in Vancouver. There was only a couple shows to do. And someone told me, well, if you want to get good, you got to do 5 shows a week. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was going on music open mics. And I was like, doing these weird shows where I would just kind of play anywhere.
Were you doing like a lot of local material in Vancouver?
No, I
Canucks
never
above
really
that?
I never really got into local Vancouver material. But
If you can't get laid in Chilliwack, there's always hope. Jokes like that.
whoa, wow.
Canadian comedy.
I
that's how it all
hadn't
starts.
heard that one, but yeah, that would murder over there.
Yeah. Feel free to throw that one in.
Try it tonight.
You can have
Phil Hanley is right around the corner. Little Alabama getaway. He's around the corner at Hilarities all weekend long, and you could go to pickwickandfrolic.com. His latest hour is called Ooh La La. If you go to philhanley.com. Thank you for coming in, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Very
That was
nice to
great.
meet you.
Yeah, really nice to meet you.
Phil M. Hanley on Instagram.
Yeah, please follow me. I post clips like every other day, sometimes every day.
Awesome clips all the time, too.
Oh, thank you.
What's the M?
Martin. The M is someone not wanting to sell me their, like, I would love to just be Phil
a
Hanley.
squatter took Phil Hanley.
Well, they have, I mean, I will give him that it is also his name.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would like to just have my name, but.
What was that pitch? Hey, man, I'm a comic. I'm trying to, could I just,
Yeah. Yeah. And he lives in a different time zone, so it was hard to arrange, but
Okay.
maybe I'll, yeah. But
You had to become Michael J. Fox.
yeah, exactly.
Essentially, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let me take a break here, and if you want to text for anything,